Mini Jake, the tribe has spoken.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Aw, fuck you too, sweetie.
I'm JJ, one of the original Tribe of Nerds members. You can catch me on Marvel, Pokemon, and other gaming podcasts.
What up? It's Josh, resident superhero nerd, but I also dabble in the occasional super villain as well.
Some may know me as the Chaos Gremlin, but really I'm just Joe King.
Pikachu, use Volt Tackle! Good job, Pikachu!
On the Tribe of Nerds. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Gabe and I are here to tackle the next Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, The Thunderbolts, with an asterisk, and we will discuss what the asterisk means. But we're going to start off with the non-spoiler territory. So Gabe, what were your initial thoughts after seeing Thunderbolts?
Yeah. So I think this was a breath of fresh air after a lot of multiverse movies.
Yep.
Back to back to back. It's funny because I understand it's the whole theme of this saga or whatever, but it all felt so like much more like redundant because I don't know, like I feel like it's been 6 years and we haven't led into the next major cataclysm yet. Right. Or at least that's how it seems. I know like you have like Loki and WandaVision was pretty paramount in like setting that stuff up. And what else am I missing? Multiverse, the last Doctor Strange film. Yeah. So yeah, but this was reminiscent of just some like Winter Soldier action. I don't think it was good as Winter Soldier because that is like actually just a really good spy thriller.
Right.
But it was great, and I did not anticipate them going that direction with the villain, with the whole psychological battle within.
Yeah.
I was honestly expecting just kind of like an all-out brawl the entire movie, but and I also kind of tidied up some people we saw from TV shows, which I thought was interesting. I did have a criticism that like people who didn't watch those are probably really confused, just coming in and like, oh, who's this not Captain America? Wait, he killed a guy. And yeah, so but I think it was all right. Not all the humor landed for me, but it was it felt like kind of one of the better installments as of late, and I feel like it should definitely be the standard.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I think I was much higher on Brave New World than a lot of people were. But like there were parts of that I genuinely did think were good, but then it was a lot of schlock from reshoots. What Marvel Studios has been doing.
Yeah. It really sucks when things are like bungled up in reshoots and like delays and stuff, because it's just like, okay, I guess we have no choice but to watch like the not ideal version of the picture.
Exactly. Yeah, but this it felt like this was the one true vision that they wanted for Thunderbolts. Like it's like that's what the director wanted, what Kevin Feige wanted. Like I feel like that was the good news with this movie, and I feel like it made me care about characters that I feel like I only cared about like probably 2 of them.
Yeah, like the character development is very satisfactory, even if it kind of takes place in a very short amount of time. I think they could have done with like more of like a 2.5 hour runtime. But I think like everyone plays their person with like a suffice amount of emotional gravity. I'm sure it's weird to have your sister die and then get resurrected for a bunch of weird, freaky
Yeah.
stones that are being collected by this purple guy, and then
Right.
not, and then being alive again. I don't know, but it's again. I'm just a big fan of like ground level, just action Marvel that I'm very Winter Soldier pilled. So it was right up my alley. And also very interesting end sequences, but I suppose we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And I did want to just touch on the grief aspect, which we'll dive more into as we get into spoilers. But
mhm.
yeah, the grief aspect was really good. I feel like when in the some of the projects that have handled grief, because I feel like post Endgame, a lot of it has been dealing with grief, or at least
Yeah,
good stuff. So like
yeah,
WandaVision dealt with it, um, and Wakanda Forever, for example, also
mhm.
dealt with that.
Yeah,
So I just think that that's an interesting piece of it, and I mean, you know, usually it seems to handle it well when they handle grief like this. So
yeah. I would say they did their due diligence. Um,
yeah,
that being said, I'm very eager to see what the future holds because they're gonna have to kind of turn the page eventually. But
yeah, yeah, I agree.
yeah,
Well, let's get into spoilers. So if you have not seen Thunderbolts and you just wanted like impressions, I would recommend going to see the film before you go into the spoilers.
or don't if you're a psychopath, whatever.
Yeah, if you're a psychopath, yeah, you can just listen to us talk about it. All right, so let's dive into the team. And I suppose the thing that everybody was already anticipating, but maybe not as quick as they ended up doing it, because the fact that the Doomsday cast reveal happened and they did not have Taskmaster,
Mhm.
Olga Kurylenko, I believe her name is, they did not have her listed. So everybody already went in thinking, okay, Taskmaster, this does not bode well for her.
Mhm.
And so I was expecting that the character probably does not make it out at the end of the movie. I did not
Mhm.
expect her to die immediately in the
Yeah.
movie.
There's just so little thought put behind it. It I don't know. It didn't really rattle me because I'm just like, okay, this person's been in one movie,
Right.
and but also I really like Taskmaster. Um,
Yeah.
my only exposure to Taskmaster was like the first Marvel Spider-Man game where like
Yeah.
you're fighting. I guess spoiler for that game, but it came out like 8 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
But you fight Taskmaster there, and it's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, this person is like parrying everything I do. So I think Taskmaster as like a concept is it's just so cool,
Yeah.
especially how they're portrayed in this franchise. But
Right.
I'm just like, why waste someone so cool? Like, it's not like you're why are you in this big hurry to like write off someone when I don't know. You have quite a bit of movies planned. Why would you just axe them like that? I think I'm mostly butthurt because I just think Taskmaster is really cool. But yeah, and also the marketing was a little misleading because I thought she would be in there the whole movie, but I guess that's just kind of what they do these days to get you in the movies. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm left wondering if they're going to be have the mantle passed on or just something to reintroduce Taskmaster and keep them current. Because it's just like the MCU studios do something with everything. Like literally everything is intentional,
Yeah.
and I just have a hard time being like, oh, I guess like it didn't feel very tongue in cheek. I felt like it was there to perplex people.
Yeah, I think it was
So.
there to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill someone off immediately just to raise the stakes a little bit. But
Mhm.
and Taskmaster, I didn't see what else they could really do with her as a character necessarily, compared
Mhm.
to everybody else. I think they could do something with.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I liked the setup of like sending them there initially, Val's setting them up to like kill each other and off each other.
Yeah.
And so, like, what was it? Taskmaster is there to kill John Walker. John Walker's there to kill Yelena. Yelena's there to kill Ghost, and Ghost is there to kill Taskmaster, which she does. So,
Yeah.
so I liked that part of it, and then it unknowingly brings them together with Bob, who we will talk about Bob more, but later. But just in terms of the team, and David Harbour is going to come in as Red Guardian, obviously, as well into this team. But I like Yelena. I thought Yelena was the best part of Black Widow, so I was excited for her, and she was really good in Hawkeye. So I was very excited for her. U.S. Agent, I always found intriguing in Falcon Winter Soldier, so I think I actually was excited for the two of them the most. Ghost, I think, had like potential in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm not saying like she was like this amazing character, but she had something. And
Yeah.
I think it was her powers that were pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say she kind of fills that last slot pretty well.
Yeah,
So.
and we haven't seen her since, and we knew she was like left alive at the end of that movie for a reason.
Yeah, but still having Taskmaster on the team would be so dope.
I know. But yeah, and then and then Bucky's obviously going to join as well. So I mean, I loved the arc of also like where they took Bucky, that he's now in Congress. We find out the reason why he's running for Congress is because he's there to expose Val for everything she's done. And I like that angle of like, okay, so I'm just here to run for a spot to make sure we can kick Val out of here, out of where she's at. So I actually really, really liked that angle. I'm wondering now, because we'll get to the end of the movie later, but like where that stands with Bucky now, and why he's like, I guess, sort of accepted that position that he has at the end of the movie now. But
yeah, Bucky just feels so like adrift because he's like one of the last like pre-Endgame characters around,
right?
And I think it makes for a very interesting character, so long as Sebastian Stan will want to play him,
right?
Yeah, there definitely some very interesting questions left at the end of the movie, and yeah, it's a very interesting roster overall. I mean, it really makes you wonder if they're kind of the next iteration, sort of. I mean, this would mark Yelena's and Red Guardian's second appearance.
Third for Yelena, because she was in Hawkeye.
Third, okay. So yeah.
Definitely. Red Guardian. I love David Harbour. I loved him in Stranger Things as Hopper, and so like I think he's been good from that. I didn't like him as much in Black Widow because I think he was just the buffoon. I think in this movie his humor, some of it does not land. I agree still, but some stuff does, and I think the part that lands for me in this movie, they do build that bond with him and Yelena more in this movie, to the point where like I like the character a little more because he has some personal stakes in this now.
Yeah.
Some seriousness. So
yeah, I don't think this movie detracted from any person's character. It kind of built off of everyone's. And to your point, other point, a lot of the missed humor was coming from like everyone else for me. I thought it was like pretty funny that he was just so geeked up to like be in a fight, and I found it funny that he still kind of talks like a Soviet cadre. He's like, your insubordination will be reported to the DoorDash HQ. I thought that was really funny.
That was funny. Yeah, I guess I see your point, because I mean the MCU does try to make a lot of their characters have like the quippy personality. Like I do see that absolutely. And
or the beginning sequence with where they're all in the secret location that's being set on fire by Valentina.
Yeah.
A lot of it is like kind of smarmy remarks. I'm like, okay, you guys are about to die in like 15 seconds.
That's true. Yeah, it's very awkward for like all of a sudden, John Walker is like this smarmy ass. I mean, he is a smarmy asshole, so I guess that fits him but like he becomes quippy. Elena's already quippy.
Mhm.
Ghost starts becoming quippy, which I don't necessarily think we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp, that she was a
Yeah.
really quippy character. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. It was very, very odd for, I agree, for some of the
I
characters.
think if they assigned comedic relief to like one or two people, then that would work out a bit better. Instead, like it's one of those movies where like it believes it always has to keep its audience very comfortable, and I don't personally subscribe to that. But as far as the action goes and stuff, I was very satisfied. I've already said I'm more of kind of a Winter Soldier kind of fella. So a lot of the sequences with like I mean the very first scene with like Florence Pugh's like action
Yes.
parts,
Yeah.
that was actually really good. And yeah, those first like 10 or 15 minutes actually had me being like, man, like I really want to see like John Walker kind of pop off too.
Right.
I think I was anticipating a lot more like fist to fist action all around. So I guess that's the only other criticism I could lob against it. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do feel like at points, like I feel like they could have added a little bit more action, but what we did get was a lot better than what we have gotten recently. I mean,
Mhm.
rewatching Brave New World, even though I was higher on it, or a little higher than other people at the
Yeah.
time, on a rewatch, that CGI for a lot of it does not hold up real well. The action does not hold up real well.
Mhm.
And for a movie that just came out this year, that's a little bit embarrassing. And I
Yeah.
feel like Marvel's just been stretched too thin. I think reports just came out actually that Thunderbolts was like the first focus on quality over quantity. Like Bob Iger came out and said that, Kevin Feige came out and said that, and like everything else has been okay. They're just pushing out this, like pushing out the stuff that was like has been reshot and delayed for a while. So it's kind of like it took this long to finally push all that stuff out. Like,
Yeah, which is like I mean, you ask anyone if you put out like one solid movie a year or even like every 18 months,
yeah,
that would get butts in seats. I would get a big old popcorn and watch it every single time if it was like pretty good every time.
right. Well,
So that kind of has me sort of like marking Fantastic Four and whatnot on my calendar because
yes.
I don't know if they've got me hooked for Doomsday quite yet. But I
Yeah.
mean, the big old cast, I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. But Fantastic Four and stuff, whatnot, I do notice a significant like sort of divergence. I've always wished that each installment was a bit more stylized, and I feel
Yes.
like we might be kind of heading towards that
I
because,
agree.
for lack of better terms, I feel like Thunderbolts was kind of a kind of given the Suicide Squad treatment
Yeah,
when
I
they're
agree.
like, okay, guys, look at all these anti-heroes. Someone's gonna
Right.
die. They're not very good guys. They're kind of kooky crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and to your point of like, one good movie a year, I feel like it's been that way. Like, I mean, 2021, No Way Home and Shang-Chi, so you had two really good movies that year.
Mhm.
2022, Wakanda Forever was that movie that was really good.
Yeah.
2023 was Guardians 3, and then 2024, Deadpool and Wolverine. And then
Yeah.
pretty much everything else is like mid to bad.
Do you think they're like financing the shows too much? Because maybe I feel
Yeah,
like if they took all that time out of the calendar and like just put it in movies, they might be able to
I
kind of
I
bring
think
it
it's
back up.
I think it's the shows, because like, and some of the shows have been good. I mean, I think it's mainly that first year of shows like WandaVision, Loki, and you can count season 2 of Loki in
Hmm.
that first year. Falcon Winter Soldier was good. Hawkeye was good. Like that first year of the live action shows was pretty good, and then there were like okay moments in every other show. Like I like Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, but
Yeah.
Moon Knight dropped the ball on the story and everything else. Then besides,
Yeah,
so like,
it felt a little funky.
so Oscar's performance really
Yeah.
carried the show, but
Oh yeah.
it's just like a lot of the other shows, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel for me, like even if the casting was good, they dropped the ball on so many of those shows. Like,
which is weird because like I'm obviously not in the TV industry, so I'm like, how do you make like a really good pilot episode and then like the finale or like the penultimate episode is like, ooh, what are we doing here?
yeah,
So
exactly. Well, and I enjoyed Daredevil Born Again. Like that was back to being a good show. I mean, but the problem with that one is that that wasn't even the intention. Like they had to rewrite and reshoot Born Again to be more like the original because their original idea was to completely revamp it and do something completely different. And they realized that people were not going to like what they originally had planned for Born Again.
Yeah.
Oh, which is crazy to think about, but like what they did give us in like the last half of Born Again was really, really good. Like,
yeah.
So like, I don't know. It's really interesting to think about, but let's get back on track.
Sure.
Go through the rest of the movie. And so let's talk about Valentina. So Julie Louis-Dreyfus, we've seen her 2 other times only. I think it's only been in Falcon Winter Soldier where she first showed up and we saw her recruit U.S. agent John Walker at the end. And then Black Widow's post-credit scene where she got Yelena on board and like made her go after Hawkeye, which makes more sense now in the context of Thunderbolts, where she sends all the rest of them to kill each other. So like that's what she was trying to do with Yelena, to send her to Clint. And so I think that was good, even though it doesn't really get brought up that Yelena got sent to go after Clint. But I assume because, she's just doing these jobs for Yelena, she can claim that she can probably claim she may be off Clint. I mean, Yelena seems, or Valentina to know everything, but like she can claim like, because Clint's going into retirement. It's like trying to keep it up. Like Clint's not really doing anything now, so it's kind of
Clint's gonna go into retirement and make his own app where he can keep up on Clint's activities and Clint's activities only.
Yeah.
Love you, Jeremy Renner.
Well, I mean, Jeremy Renner is also dealing with post accident with the snowmobiles.
Yeah.
I don't think Jeremy's been in the best situation.
If anything, that man deserves his own app now.
Yeah, absolutely. But I love the joke about Jeremy Renner's oldest.
Yeah. I liked Valentina because it was a good departure. I feel like we've been getting supervillains for like a decade straight, and it's nice to kind of look inward a little more again, kind of going back to those Winter Soldier vibes where like these people's employers or these politicians or their these people paying them are kind of the people at the crux of the story as the bad guys. And I think that's like a very welcome change of pace to have a lot more conniving villain, especially these days when like people don't totally trust their government, and also just kind of a nice change of pace from like big old Thanos or whatever cosmic threat there may be. And especially with the ending considered, it's very interesting to see her kind of like teeter. Like, the Thunderbolts can't necessarily like just throw her ass in jail or send her with her tail tucked between her legs. So it's kind of like, how do we like subdue this person? And it's post Endgame events, and she just threw you into like a media circus. Like, genuinely, what do you do?
Right. Well, and it's interesting because I guess we can just talk about it now, the asterisk, what it means, and we'll talk about Bob after that. But so just like it's interesting because she has this ulterior motive. Like I like that we have, and Nick Fury had a little bit of that throughout the MCU. Like he had other motives, but his was always like helping people, helping the majority of people, and not something super sinister. But Valentina is the complete opposite, where she is Nick Fury, but she is doing things for the wrong reasons instead of the right reasons. And so I like that. I like the contrast between her and Nick Fury. And
yeah.
just for her, like when it got to the end of the movie and she had already gotten the media to come and for Sentry, but then she like backpedals when she realizes that things are not going to plan and she realizes she's about to be caught. She backpedals, and now the Thunderbolts are now the new Avengers. And so just for like, it's like, did Valentina have that planned? Or, you know, obviously the more likely option is that she obviously backpedaled and was quick on her thinking fast, and she got this out there.
Yeah, it's like she like perfectly like capitulates like no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah, exactly.
So
like
that was like really kooky.
Well, because I was questioning like what her plan was all along, and then I'm like, oh, she's just that fast thinking that she can save herself for the moment and get this happening to you know, and then they can't do anything about it at the moment.
For all we know, she was banking on them being able to, you know, talk down Sentry, and then she could stage that whole new Avengers situation.
Right, exactly. It's just, and we got to see a little bit of her backstory too, because then, you know, you had Sentry giving her a little bit of her own grief. So I found that interesting. I don't know if that means we get a little more, like, I'm perfectly fine with that being the only other thing we get about her. Like, we didn't need to give her anything else, but just like giving that little bit even shows like they wanted to care about this character too. And so they gave us that little bit, that little tease.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. Let's talk about Sentry and Void. So Bob, so they find him at the beginning of the movie, and he's like the sweet guy. He's a little bit troubled, but he's very sweet. And then we find out like we like everybody knew that he was going to be Sentry. Like we knew that going in, but just like unless you are like a casual and you didn't really follow anything Marvel related, but all of us fans knew he was Sentry. And so like originally it was Steven Yeun who plays and he was originally going to be in this movie, and then he had some other conflict, so he left, and then Lewis Pullman got hired.
I would have liked having him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not gonna lie.
Yeah, Steven Yeun would have been funny too because of Invincible, of being like, now being this other character who has a similar power set, like, or aside from the Void part, but like just like the normal like Superman type of thing. But just like the one thing I really, really loved though about Bob is the Void, and like the fact that it sets him apart from just being a Superman clone, like we've seen so often, just to tie in everything with all these other characters in this theme of grief, and like how your past doesn't necessarily have to define you, and you can move past it, and just like how people deal with grief differently. So I really, really enjoyed Bob in this movie. I think Lewis Pullman did an amazing job in this film. And so like, and just, it was so cool and so like horrifying. Like you had the blip with Thanos, but now you have the Void where people just get trapped in their own depression. And like,
the visual effects on that was like so cool. Like they just like get instantly compacted into like a shadow, just completely two-dimensional. That was really cool. That kind of had me being like, holy crap. Sentry, I do like, I like that he's kind of unlike a lot of like Marvel characters. I guess like the closest comparison is Thor, but it really did sort of inspire a lot of like helplessness when like he became Sentry and adopted all those powers, because it's just like I'm sitting there and like, and I know like obviously he's fighting off against like just like a gang of like super soldiers. Like these are like they would be B tier or C tier Avengers even. But just like having him, like he's just like, it's just like a pointless endeavor to fight this dude. I'm sitting there watching Thunderbolts during that part, and I'm like, he's just so overpowered. Like genuinely, like what do you even do? So I'm just like, it's kind of like a frightening concept to introduce into these movies, because now I'm just like, you have someone who, like, I guess there's just nothing you can do to stop them. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Besides talking about
that was pretty confounding. But I'm hoping that, like, Sentry kind of takes a serious role going forward, because I'm like, you know, you already said he's pretty much, he is the equivalent of like Superman, in
Yeah.
this in these comics. So plus all the freaky, like, metaphysical powers. It's just like, seriously, he's like invincible, but now he also can, you know, set things on fire and stuff, and also do the whole void thing, which I don't know a whole lot about Sentry as a character. Is the void situation part of his backstory originally, like in
Well,
the source
so
material?
oh yeah, the source material. I have no idea about the source material. I don't know if it's something they invented to go with the theme of it.
Hmm.
I have no idea. We'd have to do research on that, honestly.
Hmm.
But I really, again, it just tied in perfectly. So they really wrote this character based on what they wanted the film to be, and like I really loved that about it. Um, and just like, yeah, I mean, the fact that he is literally was like a drug addict, like, and he was like selling meth or on meth, and like,
Hmm.
you know, how you can do something that bad for yourself and your own health, and like, you know, not like be a destructive member of society, but then you can come back from it, and you're
Yeah.
not just confined to being who you were in the past. And it all has to do with him being abused as a child by his dad. So like, you know,
Yeah.
it just was really, really good. And just like, yeah, obviously that ties into Yelena's story as well, and we got to see a lot of her. And Florence Pugh is the other MVP of this movie. She was really good, even with the serious stuff. I mean, the funny stuff. I think Yelena was where the humor did work as well for me. And then you still got the serious stuff with her and Bob, and just like the fact that in this universe, you know, Yelena was a drunk, and like she obviously grew up in the Red Room and having to deal with this shit of killing other girls, and like, and then it turned her, and you know, she became a drunk and almost drank herself to death, and like how she dealt with alcoholism. And yeah, there's just so much stuff in here between these two
Yeah,
characters.
it's a pretty optimistic movie overall, and honestly, as a entire endeavor to kind of contextualize everyone a bit more, it's very successful, and it's Sentry was a weird sort of conduit for that. So
Yeah.
yeah, there could be big plans for him moving forward.
Yeah, and especially because he now is to basically stop himself from being Sentry and hurting people. But
Yeah.
we can assume that it's going to come into play again for Doomsday or Secret Wars, where he's going to have to come out as
Yeah,
the
because like he's already bad enough as Sentry, and he's not in the right headspace. But when he becomes Void and like crashes out, like he could literally just end the world. Like I don't even know who you send against that.
Yeah.
So
I think the Russos are going to do a good job of holding him back, because that's one thing that I mean, to many people's like, you know, people had problems obviously with Thor and Hulk, but I know the Russos were doing that to like not have them overpower the entire movie, because they are the two strongest characters, and it's very difficult.
Right.
Now, do I think it would have been cool to still see them at full power? Yes, but and I mean, the Russos still also gave us a Thor that was extremely overpowered in Infinity War. Like that was the best Thor has ever been. But then they did the whole fat Thor thing, and then they did Professor Hulk with Hulk across those movies. So I don't know. It's interesting. So I at least think they'll find a way to make it in Doomsday and Secret Wars of like, we can kind of nerf him for the benefit of the story, and like have him maybe come out.
It can coincide with they'll find a way. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. They've always managed to like very I don't want to say unconventionally, but like they very intelligently like nerfed some characters that, like, you know, because you know, if like if it were up to, you know, the actual lore reasons or whatever, Thor
Right.
or whatever would be able to just wipe the floor with most people, or at least end the fight pretty quickly.
Exactly. And so
I hope that he can take like a reasonable backseat so that I don't know. I hope that there's like plenty of like movies going forward where people can just there's street level threats and then there's cosmic level threats,
Right.
and I just want to be able to make sure we have room for each other to kind of operate in their own space.
Exactly. Anything else before we want to hit the post credits and kind of give our review grade?
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, let's hit the post credits. So we do see after the new Avengers are formed, we do get the follow-up joke that they are now on the cereal boxes. So the Wheaties. So that was funny to have David Harbour as Red Guardian kind of cleaned up now, and then like basically going around and telling people like they're the new Avengers, and like I don't know. I thought that was funny. I thought the humor was on point there. But then the big one, the big like 2-minute post-credit scene is them actually serving as the new Avengers. They got cool new outfits as well, which I hope we actually see in Doomsday. Like, I don't want them to just like take away the outfits, but the Russos did direct this last post-credit scene, so I'm assuming that they'll keep these outfits. So I love this. Like, you have John Walker with a beret, which is really, really cool. And then like, I don't know, Bucky's outfit looks amazing. I don't know, like there's just some really good stuff there. But the big thing is, of course, that they see a ship entering space, entering their atmosphere, and it is the Fantastic Four. And it's so exciting just to see a post-credit scene that we know now is going to matter. As we've been getting the last few years of post-credit scenes that go nowhere because they teased way too much. And I'm just excited. Like, this feels like Marvel is back, and I know a lot of people are like, they're back, they're not back, they're dead or whatever. Like, it keeps going back and forth. But this really does feel like they are back in a big way because we know this is going to come up in a year. So, or less than that.
So that was the one factoid I was holding back on, because obviously we had to wait until we discussed the actual post-credit scenes. But having the Fantastic Four allegedly show up to be like, hey, we shouldn't have cosmic threats just kind of crashing out on the streets, thanks. And it really inspires me to think that like the Fantastic Four is going to step into this role of like any wacky super threat is going to be handled by the Fantastic Four from here on out. Because, like, I mean, as we've seen in the events of the Thunderbolts, these super mega Avenger level threats can just show up where, like, literally no one knows how to do anything about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure even if Iron Man, Cap, Hulk, maybe even if Thor were there, they could just be like shadowed.
Right.
So it's like it's like 100 different Thanos snaps. Maybe it might not be like simultaneous, but like he can just like point at a dude and like turn him into nothing. So that's pretty intense. So I think I actually think that's exactly what they're setting it up to kind of be like, okay, like Avenger level threats are kind of gonna default to Fantastic Four, but we'll also have to see. And obviously they'll probably be pretty pivotal going forward for like the Doomsday movies, because I think all the source material there is pretty Fantastic Four heavy.
Right.
And also they've been really waiting a while to roll them out for a reboot, so
yeah, I think it's going to be successful. The trailers look great for Fantastic Four, and I do think like I honestly, like, I know people are worried about like Pedro as Reed Richards. I think he's going to be great because Pedro is great in almost everything he's done, at least as in like the last decade. So like, I'm optimistic. I like the casting there, and then everybody else I feel like is pretty well cast. I haven't
Mhm.
heard complaints about Sue or Johnny or Ben. Like, so
Yeah, I'm eager to see all of them. I think it's pretty good casting all around.
yeah,
And also since I mean, not only are the Fantastic Four showing up after the deal of Sentry, I'm also thinking like maybe they actually want to have a word with the Thunderbolts and the remaining Avengers anyway, but like maybe they think they have some kind of jurisdiction over the matter entirely. I think it
yeah.
just kind of depends how the Fantastic Four movie unfolds. So
I think it's obviously going to end because they're going to be in an entirely different universe. So I think their world is going to get eaten by Galactus or something, and then they are going to be forced to go into another universe, and so they end up in the actual MCU. I think that's how Fantastic Four is going to end, and then we're going to finally see RDJ as Doctor Doom at like
yeah.
credit. But I think that's where we're going to end up.
Looking back, I think I would rather have them like zapped into I don't want the Fantastic Four to feel like guests from another dimension. I feel like I rather would have like I wrote this really long like fan theory or like I wrote my own own canon a long time ago, and I feel like the best approach for me would be like just having them there in the MCU in the 60s, but like they kind of just disappeared via some anomaly, and they're like kind of back and have to rebuild their reputation and whatnot. Kind of explaining why we only ever hear about Stark Industries and not Fantastic, Four
Right.
Industries or whatever.
Yeah, the
So,
Baxter Building. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I think that would have been a good angle to take. I think because it is the multiverse saga, I think that's what convinced them to do it in an alternate universe and then go from there because then they can have the Fantastic Four be like the, lead everybody into the multiverse because they are going to know so much about it. And then you're going to have like Loki who's holding the multiverse together. You have some other characters who are also going to like be stewards for this multiverse for
Yeah.
people. So I think it's going to be good. And I also wanted to mention also, obviously they do mention in that last scene of like Sam Wilson is mad that the new Avengers are a thing. Like he's mad. He's like suing them for copyright. So I think that source of conflict, it's going to be like how Infinity War, the Avengers were split. And now I think they're going to be split here as well. Now they have a reason to be like, okay, Sam is pissed because he was supposed to build the Avengers, but now there's the new Avengers. So who is Sam going to take in as well? I think is going to be the thing. I think for Sam, I think it's going to be him and Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon. So they're going to be together. I think Ant-Man might be on the team. Shang-Chi. I don't know. Like I think some of those people are going to be on this like Sam's Avengers team.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, they're gonna have to build a completely new and interesting dynamic. Like seeing like a Falcon, Shang-Chi link up, like there's all kinds of room for some very interesting movies. They might not be the heroes everyone's familiar with, but like we can change that. I mean, in 2008, believe it or not, everyone knew who Iron Man was.
Or the
So
Guardians of the Galaxy in
that's
2014.
true.
So
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think they also will have to kind of lead into Sam's angle. For some reason, I foresee him taking just not. I don't know if I see that conflict coming to fruition. Maybe he will kind of realize, okay, like this is who we all got. Maybe they can be kind of Avengers for now or something.
yeah, it'll be interesting. I think there's going to be conflict though in the beginning, and then something because if Doomsday is going to do like Infinity War, I'm going to guess it's going to end with something that'll lead into Secret Wars, where like they think the world ends or whatever, and then it gets built into Battle World or whatever, right? Like in the comics for Secret Wars. So like I think that's probably what's going to happen, and then they're going to get pulled back together for Secret Wars. And Also, I mean, Doomsday is going to have all the original X-Men, so they're probably going to be split, and then the X-Men are going to come and think that, that the Avengers are all their enemies or something at first. So I think that's something people have volleyed around. I think that's or thrown around. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's I mean, no matter which way you slice it, there's going to be kind of a interdimensional build-up, and then them sort of doing hopefully a clean break and kind of pushing everyone to their respective places and kind of building a universe 2.0. I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of funky, and they're definitely going to have to say goodbye to plenty of characters.
Yeah,
I think they're I do think they're gonna have to move kind of quickly though if they want to realize everyone's like role in all that business.
right.
Because I mean, we've all seen how like a lot of movies just don't feel all that planned.
Right.
So I would really hate it if they're like, oh, I guess this random character is, kind of acts as like a MacGuffin or whatever. So
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what happens, but let's head into our grading for this. We're not going to pull up old MCU rankings because that'd be way too many. So we're just going to give it our letter grading. I mean, I would honestly give this a B plus, A minus, to be honest. I really enjoyed it. There's flaws with it, as with everything, but in terms of like compared to like what a lot of what we gotten in recent MCU the last couple of years, I thought this was really good in a return. It's not going to be as good as like Endgame or Winter Soldier, or in recent years it's not, because I think Guardians 3 is probably the best from post Endgame in my opinion, but this is probably for me is the top 5 post Endgame MCU projects. So
yeah, I'm more in like B or B minus territory because a lot of the humor is like miss.
Yeah.
And then this is totally just me, but I think they really could have done with like an extra like 25 to 30 minutes runtime.
I agree.
Just to kind of really go for a home run on the themes of like grief and kind of really extending backstories in a really casual way.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm solid. I'm fine with like a solid, like, because despite these criticisms, like I do think there should be roughly the standard that we're running off of. So and I think that speaks for itself. It was kind of a refreshing installment there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you had great scenes. I mean, even just like the craziest scene to me was the moment with Red Guardian with the little girl, and she just disappears right in front of him, and you're like, holy shit. Like that's
I think I put my hands on my head during that scene. I'm like, oh
like jeez, that's just so dark.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, this is just like this is a good movie, and like so I'm excited for what we're gonna get. I think we're gonna cover Fantastic Four in a couple months. There's gonna be some other movies we're covering not MCU related, so we'll do Superman, we'll do the new Jurassic World as well, and maybe a few other movies. I know I'm gonna probably see a couple other movies this month, like Mission Impossible or Final Destination. I'm probably gonna see this next
week. I think I might go out and see the last Mission Impossible because they're just marketing the crap out of this thing. I didn't see the last like 2 newest ones, I believe, that were kind of like direct sequels. And lots of little interesting things. James Gunn's Superman should be interesting because obviously it's James Gunn, and usually when he takes a good stab at a superhero movie, it turns out pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now him being in charge of DC and kind of guiding them in the direction, like maybe they'll be good too. So I mean, I'm optimistic that the superhero genre is going to keep going, and I'm excited to see what movies we'll do this year, the rest of this year. Anything else, Dave, before we end this?
I would like to see a Red Guardian Cold War era movie akin to Winter Soldier, because I think that would be kind of cool. I'm like really into like Cold War spy crap like that. I just think it's just such a I'm able to romanticize the era because I was, born way after it.
Yeah.
But I think the pervading suspense is so cool. But
I agree.
I don't have anything else. I really dig the attempt at kind of cobbling all these characters together. I think it was very successful, even as someone who didn't see all the material.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest. I only watched like half of Black Widow because I started it on Disney Plus and like didn't finish it because I was kind of just watching it as my fiance was watching it, like that sort of thing. So, but like this movie still really kind of hit for me. So
Yeah. I don't blame you for that. Like, there's projects that, like we've said, have been kind of mid recently, but no, it still hit. So yeah, with that, we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.